Hello, I'm David Frankel, and I'm the director of Devil Wears Prada, and I'm doing this DVD commentary with some of the fantastic collaborators, the extraordinary people who work with me behind the camera, behind the scenes, and they include...
Mark Lavolsi, I'm the editor.
And Patricia Field, I did the clothes.
I'm Wendy Feinerman, I'm the producer.
Aline Brosh McKenna, screenwriter.
Florian Ballhaus, cinematographer.
And the opening of the film was shot in a set that was built in Queens by our illustrious production designer.
Jesse, where is he?
Jess Gonshore. We refer to as Shuffleman for the rest of the DVD. And this opening sequence was shot, a lot of it was shot, the models that you see putting on their underwear was shot by a clacker unit. Pat?
Well, I do remember that. It was like there were a few tests of how to most delicately and gorgeously put on a pair of bikini underwear.
It's a tricky thing, yeah. Backlit and
That's right.
And the G-string and how
how
much?
you know.
Well, it was very important to you also to make sure that the models had been manicured and pedicured and.
They have to look gorgeous. There can't be any mistakes. The nails have to be done. It's close-ups on all of this, and it was like, okay, you have to stand and step into it. You can't do it sitting down. You know, it's all these little details.
What are those shoes? What are those spectacular shoes?
Louis Vuitton.
Oh,
Louis Vuitton.
yes, they are Louis Vuitton.
Pat, do you remember that the day that we were doing all those little models that we went down this corner and there was a little
There's
Asian nail place and we hired the whole nail place to come do the
I
models?
remember we were in Chinatown, right?
This is that's Andy Street, which was shot on the Lower East Side.
I remember, Wendy, right? I said, what is going on? They need manicures and pedicures. How are we going to shoot this movie?
This was shot on the Upper East Side. Some of these models, we used the clacker unit wherever the main unit was shooting. The clacker unit would go off and shoot models.
You want to say what the clackers
separately.
are?
The clackers are well, you can say what the clackers are. What are you, the director?
The clackers are the women who work at Elias Clark, and she calls them the clackers because of the sound that their stiletto heels make on the marble. Clack, 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 clack.
One thing I want to point out, we went past it about a minute ago, was there was an insert of Andy has a meeting at Elias Clark. That was an insert that Mark asked for. I thought it was Mark. You want to talk about why we put that in?
Which is
In the appointment book? In the appointment book?
She looked at her appointment book. You know, Elias Clark. It was just to establish the.
because we had lifted out a scene where she goes to the wrong building, which kind of set it up a lot better. And when we took that out pretty early on, I felt like we needed some sort of shorthand to sort of, I guess.
This is the McGraw-Hill office building in Midtown Manhattan. It's at 49th and 6th that we turned into the Elias Clark Publications building.
And this was our first day of shooting.
This was, yeah.
Yes.
But some of this material was also some of the last stuff shot as well. The
really?
clacker stuff, yeah.
This is
The
the
first
set of
couple of
Fox.
days, I
The
know.
racks are a big deal in a lot of these fashion magazines. You always see racks of clothes going by. And, you know, she enters the Runway offices here, and all the fashion magazines in New York have a wonderful sense of being a really special world, as if you went into a bird sanctuary. And Jess Gonshore, the production designer, worked really hard to capture just sort of the gleaming white surfaces, almost like a makeup compact, was what we talked about as a metaphor for this world.
You work a year for her and you can get a job at any magazine you want.
Well, Florian, talk about this, because one thing is all the shots here, because we would make all the small set look like it went on forever.
Well, not
and
only
Florian
that,
had to keep on doing
this is a location and a set.
Right.
This set
we shot
sequence. Go ahead, Florian.
We shot it in two different locations. Part with the News Corp, the first part of the hallway, and then we transitioned into our set, which will be in for a long time now. But we had to make it longer.
Well, we'll see that transition again when Miranda comes in.
Right.
This was something I was never sure would work, that we introduced Miranda for a long time on her back. There's just a lot of fun in delaying the reveal and a sense of impending terror that all these people who work for her still have.
David, let's talk about when we both first met Emily Blunt. She was just Emily beyond. Remember, David?
Oh, well, you know, the minute we met her, she was this character.
The part wasn't written for a British
No.
actress.
She was cast before Anne, Emily.
We shot a lot of alternatives to that line, to Nigel's line.
Gird your loins.
Gird your loins.
Gird your loins.
It was, yeah. One was Man Your Battle Stations, and there were a bunch of others, and one was I think,
Incoming.
Incoming, and
Tits Up.
Tits Up was
Tits Up was a good one.
a shooting metaphor.
Yeah.
So there's Meryl obviously carrying Prada, Pat. Is the
I
whole
know,
outfit
because
Prada?
For me, it was very important that that Prada bag be close up on the screen because it was like the opening titles for the fashion, and so I'm really glad you got it on a close up because that's so how I saw it.
There were a lot of details about how specific the world needs to be for Miranda. That gets it in sort of a compressed way, where you see Emily running around all the things that Miranda needs to be right.
The score by Teddy Shapiro here is brilliant. It was a struggle to sort of sort out exactly what Miranda's theme was and the tone of the music. And this was the hardest cue that he struggled with, but I think he really nailed it. It's very exciting and sexy and just carries you right into the film.
And one of the
Meryl just looks spectacular, I will say that. So that's a tribute to Roy Helen, who did her hair and makeup, and her ability to just transform physically.
So here we're on the News Corp part of the hallway. This is not our set. So
Yeah,
we
this
used
is on
that to-
location. There's a block away from the McGraw-Hill building.
Right.
And Jess built a false wall there at the end to contain the hall. Because this hallway actually leads into their cafeteria.
So after the turn, we're on our real set now.
And Pat, Emily's wearing a lot of Vivienne Westwood, right?
Yes.
Lots of Vivienne Westwood and Rico, and I wanted to contrast her to Annie Hathaway. She's just a more funky type of dresser, a little bit more the underground designers, or not
Edge.
so much the big brand names. Yes, the
Right.
edge, exactly.
And her red hair was just something that was just so wonderfully different.
What is Meryl wearing here?
She
Was this a
great.
Donna
That's
Karan?
a Donna
Donna
Karan.
Karan, vintage.
Donna Karan Archives, yes,
Right.
vintage.
And we should talk a little bit about how you dressed Annie here. I mean, basically shopping at malls for this outfit.
Well,
or
yeah,
department stores.
Annie was a young lady who was wanted to be a writer, and she was more. I think she saw herself writing at the New Yorker or whatever, Vanity Fair, more of a literary type. So she wasn't very fashionable or so conscious of fashion, and she dressed in an ordinary way, American, simple, basic way.
And in that scene where Emily runs to greet Miranda, she wiped out. You can see that actually. I think on the gag reel, you see her go down. Running in heels, both Emily and Andy went down a lot. There were a lot of pratfalls, working in 4 and 5 inch heels.
You were working in 4 and 5 inch
I
heels?
was too, yes,
Yes.
because I wanted the
And you fell
actresses
down a
to
lot.
feel comfortable.
Right.
I just glee when I see the belts and things today that are just right of the moment. But 9 months ago, nobody would have known. How do you know that?
Oh, I don't know. I just try to make it look beautiful, and that's all I do. I don't really know anything
And then
about.
the rest of the world copies you?
Well, I think beauty is something that's attractive, and people are drawn to it. So,
So you saw Emily sort of drift back there. That was Emily Blunt worked very hard to sort of keep her character alive even when she was off stage.
she was great. I really loved working with
So
her.
you'll see her in a lot of these shots where we're in Miranda's office. You'll see her trotting or pacing or appearing or poking her head around, and it keeps the character alive, and it's frequently comic.
This girl, she's in the world of fashion, and she just looks like an ordinary, boring person. So the pressure is on.
Yeah, I mean Annie's very beautiful, but there's what's really striking is you see Annie here, and then you see her at the end of the film, and that's captured in a flashback at the end of the film, and you see the enormous change that she's undergone, both in her wardrobe and her hair and makeup.
But I think it looks credibly like what she considers to be her best outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's Stanley Tucci. Now, what's he wearing? How did you come up with
brilliant.
his look?
I loved dressing him. He wore combinations of different this jacket, that pant. I loved the vests. I used a lot of vests on him and tucked them into his pants. So it could have been a woven vest or a sweater, but it was always kind of. Dressing him was just joyful.
But Pat, wasn't there was a hierarchy, meaning that Miranda was dressed in kind of a classic chic way, Andy was on the avant-garde, and then the editors were kind of always classic in an undertoned way, right?
So now that
Right.
we shot this scene down in Tribeca at Bubby's restaurant.
And this is one of the locations that we picked also to get some exterior, New York exterior in the interior of the scene. You know, we tried to keep New York alive in as many shots as we possibly could.
Right, put the table in the corner with the windows behind.
See taxi cabs
Right.
outside and all that.
And this is Rich Sommer and Tracy Toms now, who've joined Adrienne Grenier and Annie, and they just had wonderful chemistry from the first moment that they worked together. It was very playful, and there was a lot of improv. One of the things that got ad-libbed here was the end of this scene. We had a different joke here, and they end up toasting Rich and Annie.
I think we wrote about 12 endings to
We
this
wrote
scene.
about 12 endings, yeah. Well, not we, you wrote
We shot
12
about
endings.
15.
I would kept calling,
Yeah.
asking for new endings, and
Yeah.
Aline would be emailing me different lines. But Annie improvised that into Jobs to Pay the Rent, and that became...
As an editor, it was interesting to watch the dailies come in and watch that sort of develop over the course of different takes until you actually nailed it with the stuff that's in the film.
But this is one of the first scenes they shot together, and they really had a fantastic chemistry. She's done so many films, Princess Diaries, and that were about a girl, and here she's playing a woman, and I think it has a real sex appeal. Great aerial photography.
And Madonna, of course.
Yeah, Madonna's real sound of fashion. So we have a couple of her songs.
Second, and you pick up her coffee order on the way. Now? Now get a pen and write this down.
What's this coat, Pat, that Emily's wearing here? Yeah, we did cut it. We cut a big chunk of this scene.
No, I really want to say I
Florian
think
had
that
planned a big crane shot.
the
there.
choice of Madonna was great
Thanks,
because
Mark.
I mean she's so she sets the pace and she's so I think inside of fashion. I thought it was a great choice to use Madonna. Oh, there it goes.
The Rex.
The Rex and the girls.
There was another line Meryl did about
Pat, will you talk
three
about
or four variations.
Pat, all of the basic vintage or the archive clothes that you were able to pull?
Well, I just felt that I wanted to really mix it up for Meryl so that it wouldn't be obvious what her clothes were when the audience was watching this. I didn't want them to know whose clothes they were because I wanted to create a style for Meryl that was all her own.
Right.
So I didn't want the audience saying, "Oh, there's a Prada. Oh, yeah, I have that Ungaro or whatever." I wanted to keep it really like, what's she wearing? And all those jewel jackets worked out pretty good, I'm glad to say.
They were great.
It was nice to mix that with a tailored pinstripe skirt or something.
What is Emily wearing here? Do you remember at all?
That jacket is a Vivienne Westwood. Yeah.
And the kitchen that we just passed was the most beautiful state-of-the-art kitchen on the facade that didn't work behind.
And it had the Frankel tile. It had the
Yes.
tile that's in my bathroom at home.
Right, remember you and I have totally different jobs. I mean, you get coffee.
And one of the things Angel DeAngelis did and Nikki working to get on Emily, Angel worked to get the right shade of red for Emily's hair, and Nikki changed her makeup almost every day to go with whatever she was wearing. Really helped distinguish her as a character.
Here's one of the things that I think Jess did a beautiful job with this set here, with keeping the glass behind the desk, so there's always some depth. There's always people moving around. You don't get stuck with just people against white walls the whole time.
I mean, that was a big challenge doing a movie set in an office with two women who essentially never leave their posts, and you see how rarely Emily and Annie actually sit at their desks in the course of the film, even though if you were actually watching assistants do their job, they would be there 98% of the time.
They would be sitting.
Well, the other point was that Jess thought about that the inner office of Miranda was a sanctuary, but you could at least see the busyness of the whole rest of the magazine in the background.
Yeah, here you see. I mean, there were 2 days where Meryl essentially worked as an extra, just to be in the background of this sequence where she's talking to George C. Wolfe, the director, and Rebecca Mader and Jimena Hoyos.
We had tried at other points to put the explanation of the book and Paris in different spots in the script, and we ended up blending them both into one scene, which was a lot of explanation for Emily to do.
It's a lot of pipe for Emily, and amazingly, she
did a great job.
She made a character, and she made it funny, and it was something we were really afraid of. There was an earlier scene with Stanley that's cut, and this becomes his introduction once Annie's started working at the magazine.
Although we don't really get his name as Nigel for some time.
I couldn't have been clearer. There you are, Emily. How many times do I have to scream your name?
Actually, it's Andy.
And this was was really important to wear the blue sweater. We went back and forth to,
Which is-
and
We also had a lot of discussion about when she starts calling her Andy. And when she stops calling her Emily and mistaking her for Emily.
No, that was great because it was from the book that was set up in the book, but you couldn't do it as long as the book did it because they did it for like 200
We
pages.
do it until very late, more than half.
Well, that's when she knew at that moment when she was referred to by her own name. Oh my God,
just going back a bit, you saw it was just a great wordless response by Meryl, that smile, and we just cut the line of dialogue that was there.
the shoe says it all.
There's a tilt coupon coming up.
Yeah. Well, it's the nature of the format.
Tilt up and tilt
you
back.
know, They were compelled to. The shoes are everything. That was something Pat and I learned doing Sex and the City, that if you don't see the shoes, you might as well not see the clothes. So.
So thank God we had a lot of shoes in the beginning of the movie.
A lot of tilting. Yeah, they're the shoes that actually make it up into the frame.
What do we
There's
call it? The
no
Florian
tilting
tilt? Wasn't there a
necessary.
word for it, David? The Florian?
Well, there is now.
Me in there, and then she asked me about Pier 59, and there was.
So this was something, just sort of the integration of fictional use of real people like Patrick Demarchelier, great photographers, and there are a lot of great designers who get referenced in the course of the film.
We also, if you remember, with each character's screensaver, we just thought Annie would be Miss Nature, and if you notice later on when you see Emily's, it's of the Arc de Triomphe, because that's all she thinks about is Paris.
Skirt convention you have to go to.
Also, before shooting, David, do you recall that we shot all the fake covers of Runway?
Yeah, that
To
was
dress-
a whole
to dress
separate
all
photo
the
shoot to
walls?
sort of create the magazines and the.
Yes,
Well,
I
this is
recall
tight.
fitting all the models.
Yeah, that was another. There was a lot of models to
There's
dress
a
on
lot
this.
of back
There's
story there.
there's so many models that and when we started we thought, oh, we hardly use any models at all, and we ended up employing quite a few. This was actually shot in the Fashion District, right outside the Calvin Klein offices. She's heading to Calvin Klein in the sequence, and we went up and shot in the Calvin Klein showroom, and it's a scene that's not in the movie, but you can see it in the deleted scenes.
This was something that was in the book about the idea that they really, really can't leave the
Can't leave
desk,
the
which
phones
is
unattended,
they can't leave
yeah.
the phones unattended. There is a one scene in the movie where they are both not at the desk.
You do coat. Do the coat.
Meryl had a great time with the coat throwing.
Oh, extremely.
But you spent a lot of time shopping for coats,
I'm like,
right?
why is she throwing those coats so hard?
A lot of time shopping for coats, though. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
how many coats did she have, you think, in the course of the film?
Oh, I'd put a guess at about 40, 45.
Wow.
David, do you remember once speaking of racks, we went to a room, there was just a coat room
Yes, one of our
in
rooms is
the costume
There's
department?
Giselle Bundchen, who's in the film, I think, because Aline bumped into her on a flight once
Yes.
traveling home.
Yep, I went over and asked her if she wanted to be in the movie.
Did you hold her hand?
Well, and she said, I'll do it, but I won't play a model.
I don't wanna play a model.
I want to play a clacker. So
And we didn't have one for Emily to hang out with, so we wrote in Serena.
and it turned out great. I thought she had a surprising
Comic timing.
comic ability.
She's just about the most beautiful person I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Even in a
Yeah,
2-hour delayed flight under the little airplane blankie, she was just glowing.
This cafeteria is up at the Reuters office building in Times Square. And, of course, we scouted it on a sunny day and came to shoot it on a very rainy day, to Florian's dismay.
Shoot.
Oh, never mind. I'm sure you had plenty more poly.
We had a whole sequence that was actually taken from the book in the cafeteria where nobody eats any carbs. All the food stations that have
Right.
French fries and pizza are unattended, and the salad bar is a teeming mass of clackers.
Right. One of the I told the story about the girls who attempt not to eat their food they eat a little bit of the food and then they put cologne in it
Oh yeah, or they pour perfume into their soup,
so they won't eat it, or
so they won't eat it.
Put their food into a paper bag and they staple it shut so they don't eat all of it at one
Right.
time.
And the ring, Pat, the brilliant ring, where did that come
He
from?
loved that ring. That came from Fred Layton, who, by the way, provided most of all of the fine jewelry for Meryl.
This was a scene that I carried around in
We
an
cut it.
auxiliary file for a
we had
long
this,
time.
This was in your basement. This
yes,
scene, yeah.
this was
And we pulled it out at the last minute, which meant we had to actually build a set for it because we hadn't shot it on location. So we built this elevator set on our stage.
I think we decided to use this ultimately because of you hear how much the reshooting costs.
It was essential to meet or to meet to see that Miranda had a boss and that someone cared whether they were wasting $300,000, because ultimately that ties into the story.
Or all held accountable to someone.
Now all the editors of fashion magazines have this kind of meeting where they run through the clothes.
Sometimes they have models come in with the outfits on, like this lady here, and most of the time they have most of the clothes on racks.
I think the great part that what Eileen did here in this scene is that she really explained for the first time kind of the evolution of an idea in an editor's room all the way down to the average, consumer in middle America and how the effect and the chain.
Well, this is one of the most important themes, and it's just that the fashion is important, and that it's not to be mocked. And I think tonally that was an important goal of the film, is to take the fashion seriously in this speech.
And it's an important business.
I think and I think it was the first time it was ever explained in kind of an intellectual way in a film.
I had written a version where we talked about the plaid skirt, but then you don't see the plaid skirt much in this scene.
Right. So we stuck with the sweater.
Stuck with blue.
It was very tricky to find two belts that told the story, two belts that seemed the same but different, so that both sides in this argument were right. That Andy made sense, but
It
so
was.
did Miranda.
I remember that challenge.
The bigger challenge was for all the women who worked on the movie to go through Pat's costume department and just see trays and trays and tables full of Hermes purses and belts, and all of us would just look like you were visiting exotic animals at the zoo. I mean, it was just
I love
amazing.
how Emily's hovering in the back of this, witnessing Andy's humiliation.
That was just Emily Blunt saying, I should be in this scene.
And being kind of peeved that she had not been invited into the run-through.
This was shot handheld, Florian, which is a departure from most of our shooting.
Yeah, we wanted it to feel a little more improvised and a little more feel like we're, really almost like a documentary style.
And what Meryl did beautifully is this idea of dressing the mannequin in the course, or the model holding the clothes as if she were a mannequin in the course of the scene, was Meryl's notion. And she tied the dialogue that was in the speech, like jacket, I need a jacket, as she went along. That was improvised.
She really wanted people to see what an editor might do and how they would put a look together.
Well, seeing Miranda do her job and seeing Miranda at work was an important change that Meryl made in the development of the script.
One of the things, David, too, do you remember you and Aileen, we all discussed at great length whether they would live together or not?
Oh, sure.
With Annie and Adrian, and there was a lot of going back and forth. And one thing that everybody that Aileen came towards is that they live together, but it's for the first time ever, it's an apartment it's not an apartment that everybody in the world would die to live in New York. It's a real
this
apartment.
Is a real
It's a real
Lower East Side
first apartment with
the dish rack,
right, and flea market.
Jess did all the
lamps.
research. He came back with all the photos of the tenements on the Lower East Side.
Classic railroad apartment.
No, it's really important to us, I think, that it feels authentic, that it doesn't feel like everybody lives in that, great loft in Soho, even when they're just starting out.
Right, they graduated college.
I love the sort of, the layout is awkward.
It doesn't make any sense.
And this window in the middle of the apartment, which is authentic to that style of architecture.
But it is a set, and I think one thing that's great about the movie is that so much of it is not sets. I mean, there are a few, obviously The Office, but for the most part, there's really an attempt to make it as much authentically New York as possible.
Now here's the coat montage. You should talk a little bit about that, Mark, and Pat, you can talk about the coats.
You can start, Pat.
Well, the coat montage, I think, was written into it. I don't think it was there originally, was it?
No.
It was
I
in
mean,
the script.
Yeah,
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Well, it's just, for me, it was like a fashion show of coats. And it's just showing, the time. I think it tells the story of the time passing. And,
right. Because we're actually covering 2 or 3 months in Andy's experience.
Exactly.
I think the great irony of the scene is that at the beginning of it, she sort of decides that she's going to spend this time defying Miranda, and then over the course of it, by the end of it, she in fact gets a little closer to being sucked into the world.
And great piece of music by Teddy Shapiro.
So here's one of
And
our
if you
few
look
night
really
moments in
close,
the,
if you go frame by frame in the co-montage, you can actually see Emily is changing her outfits in the background of every shot of Meryl.
A lot of setups.
And we shot that all in one day, all Meryl's side in one day, and then Annie's side in an afternoon.
We put
Meryl
Emily.
just shoot, throw the coat, do the line, and go change. And every half hour there'd be another shot.
Yeah, that was last minute. We put Emily in those scenes.
Right.
She wasn't originally in them.
So you see how Emily's makeup is.
One other thing I love,
different in the
Florian,
sequence.
that you did was the show that how night got earlier throughout the year. The change of seasons. Because originally in the movie they were working at night, which in the summer you wouldn't be.
Well, it was just important, I think, to try to mix it up as much as possible in the office, to have all kinds of different looks in there, different, late afternoon, rainy day. And this ended up being the only night sequence we have in the office set.
No, when she takes the book, there's another night sequence.
Right.
This is shot at Kraft, a restaurant
And David, remember
in New York. A great, one of the top 20 restaurants in New York,
It's
possibly.
one of the cleanest kitchens you'll ever
I
see.
think
Yes.
this is one of those scenes where everyone's had a version of this in their life. So we found that less is more because people could fill in sort of with whatever their dilemma had been, whatever thing that they decided to do that their parents didn't want them to do.
I don't think we changed anything here. Those lights hanging from the ceiling were there and add a sparkliness.
Assistant opens a lot of doors. Emily is going to
And David Marshall Grant, who came in, did a great job as Andy's dad.
He's a playwright also. He's a writer.
Great actor, playwright.
Right.
There's some award winners who were sitting next to them in the restaurant.
Right.
Some
From
women
American
won.
Express.
What did they win? They won some prize, and they got to
Right. To be an extra in the movie.
Be featured in the sequence. Yeah.
Yes.
And we took a lot of dialogue out of this scene. It was, there was a whole section where Andy was going to go to law school, and her father's a lawyer, and there was some more backstory that just wasn't necessary in the moment. A lot of, what we learned as we were editing was that this was all about the battle between Andy and Miranda.
In the last scene, there was a little bit of everything. Every little detail was true. They had the Prada luggage, the crocodile Prada luggage that was worth, I think, something like $70,000 to $100,000. Every little detail we tried to make as authentic and rich whenever Meryl was around.
Now, this we shot on a summer night in, mid-September and just live Times Square. There's a handful of background of extras who were wearing winter coats to sort of match our actors, and then everything else was just what it was in Times Square. We didn't close off traffic or anything.
No lanes were closed. We were worried for everybody, for the
we
cameras'
would just
lives.
they would just shoot and
And run.
Run, yeah. There was a
But
lot
that's one of the great things you get to do in New York.
lot
You
of
can
running.
just run in there, and they'll let you just shoot it with a couple of long lenses and cameras, and you don't have to control the whole street.
It was one of our green screen special effects shots that Randy Balsmeyer did.
You used 16 millimeter in addition to the
Yes.
35. And
Yeah, just to mix up the texture sometimes.
This was an ad lib.
Well, it was a joke that Aline wrote, and we did 3 variations
Right.
of this ending of the scene.
I would get the call the day before. This joke we have here, this is fine, but can we have some more? So I wrote 3 or 4 jokes and sent them back. And
What's Meryl wearing hairpin? That's
Let-
Fred Leighton jewelry,
Oh,
obviously. right?
yes, it is. And all of those pieces are one of a kind. That dress is Bill Blass.
They were very helpful. And
Extremely helpful.
Lovely. Didn't that jewelry, some of the jewelry would have to come with guards. It would be really fun,
Oh,
depending
yeah,
which
there
day we
was-
shot.
You see that the
Buddha.
necklace that she has, the Buddha, that's, I don't know, that's over 100 years old Buddha. Some of those pieces were incredible. It was really fun for me to go over to Fred Leighton and, just shop around in that fantastic store for Meryl.
So here's the kind of signature line, I think, of the whole film, the smart fat girl, which was part of the pitch Aline made the first day she came in to meet with us. One of those rare moments that the original spark actually ends up in the film.
It cracks me up that there's any planet on which Anne would be called fat.
Well,
But that,
we
yeah,
we
makes
made
it
her a
funny.
little fatter there.
Yes.
Yeah, no, she's padded. She's
Well, it
wearing
just gives
pads.
you a sense of the world and what the strictures
You also
of the
see,
world are.
Annie is so emotional here, which is I think, adds to the depth of the scene. She worked really hard. I mean,
Yes, she got
she
emotional.
was very emotional. She worked, she would go off by herself and be crying in the corner and then pull it together just to act in this sequence.
Another fortuitous thing is Stanley Tucci, to go back, but Stanley Tucci was an actor that we came to rather late in the day. We couldn't quite find the perfect Nigel, and
But we found him.
we sure did find, we could have never found a better Nigel.
Right, he was great.
We wanted to make sure that Stanley really is not just offering her help, just, to be cute. That
Yeah,
he really,
he's not a fairy godmother in any way.
that he's really being tough on her and telling her what she doesn't know and what she doesn't appreciate. And I think, he takes a little bit of time to sort of puncture that, slight smugness that you have when you're in your early 20s and you don't realize that there's this whole big world and industry that's going without you that's important. That it's sort of similar to the speech about the cerulean.
Mm-hmm. Well, and both those speeches and this speech and the scene before this are examples where Andy doesn't say much. She's a receptive audience.
What's interesting about this
she's,
is he manages to make it a conversation. They may manage to make it a conversation even though she doesn't have any lines.
She has no lines, and yet you really understand what she's thinking and how she's responding. But I think it's Annie's gift. She all through this movie, she has many scenes where people are lecturing her, and she still manages to convey emotion and comedy. This scene actually went on longer.
Where
She
she
becomes
asked him.
more desperate and she chases him around the table.
When he was really going to sewing class and reading Runway under the covers at night with a flash.
This is a great speech.
Oh, it's a wonderful.
I love this speech of his.
And I encouraged and some additions to the speech, and Stanley said, no, it's perfect the way it is. Please don't make me say anything else.
He delivers it so great. His
I was there
timing.
that day.
In the business with him and the pencil on her between her eyes, whose idea was that?
That was him.
Yeah.
That was
That's
all.
nice.
I actually didn't direct the film. I just showed up and got a paycheck and did nothing, got
Let
out of the
other
way.
people do their
That
job.
was
Got a
really
paycheck?
important.
Exactly.
That little
Yeah.
dot, that little Indian dot was very important to Stanley.
So we're about to go into the
Ooh.
magical closet.
It is
in
a
the next
magical
sequence.
closet.
And it's magical because it doesn't actually exist. And, that was the first thing. And then it's
Right.
a collection
but
of
it,
clothes
You
that-
know it still exists because it's in my store, my new store.
Oh, do you get those? You
got
actually
all
got all
those
the
columns.
furniture?
They look gorgeous
Oh,
in
I
my
believe
store.
it. So this was about 1/8 of an actual set that that Jess built, those columns and a few shelves, and then through the magic of photography,
One thing that we all found out was that the real
we
closet.
created the rest
sorry.
of the set. It's Randy extended the set, made it twice as big as it really was, and go ahead, Wendy. What
I
were you
was going
saying?
to say, what we all seemed to find out the more and more research that we did, the real closet at fashion magazines is not at all a closet that is a
Well, it's not
20th is nice.
it's not fabulous.
It's not
No.
fabulous. It's not organized. It's basically kind of a big room full of used and borrowed clothing thrown in and thrown out, and it's all over the place. And I think we took.
But it was a
Liberty here.
key it was a
Yes.
key element in the book, and it was one of the things that people remembered in the book and were curious about, and it was important to translate it to the film.
Well, it's
And the
wish
fact that they
fulfillment.
have
Where's
access,
Giselle
they have
looking,
access to items before they come on the market.
Right.
They see everything.
Here's Giselle looking unmodelish, which she worked very hard to do, and
Here's
it's almost
Annie looking-
impossible for her to accomplish. And there's Annie looking very
Modelish.
modelish, yeah. And this is Chanel, obviously.
From this moment on, Pat, she'll be wearing all Chanel for the most part, correct? Not
A
entirely.
lot. Let me put it to you this way: a lot of Chanel. It was perfect for her. And Chanel was so good.
There was-
And this was an ad lib by Giselle here at the end.
of the
Giselle
scene,
and
yeah.
Emily ad libbed the end of the scene. She had surprisingly adept comic
She said
ability and
that's what
timing.
She
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. And here's Adrian's ad lib. Take care of that finger. Yeah.
Oh, really? He's got
Just a little life.
he
There's a
sliced
whole
his
world.
finger.
There's a whole world happening in that
Adrian
restaurant.
did have.
Yeah.
There's a couple. Adrian on his entrances into scenes was always saying something
Yeah,
interesting.
just always coming from the Nate place. This was outside Bubby's again down in Tribeca. This was
Those boots.
all part of the Chanel look.
One of our black on black challenges.
I think we better get out of here before my girlfriend sees me.
That's a vintage jacket, isn't
Yep.
it? A coat.
Yeah,
It
David,
is.
David, from the beginning, remember Vogue was one of the first songs that Julia Michaels had pitched us.
Sure.
When she first gave us her kind of A to Z of movies, of songs that she thought would be in the movie, and Vogue was really, once again, one of the first ones, and it made it in.
Here's our simple little effect, transitional effect. But again, we wanted to convey passage of time, and so we did basically in-camera
All done with cuts.
matched
The
wipes.
old-fashioned way, right, Mark?
It was
That's
so
right.
incredibly hard to shoot. Just the logistics of all the different outfits and changes and being in the same place was one of the things that was really difficult about this movie.
Annie was going back and forth pre-makeover and post-makeover, and
Right.
several days she'd have 4 or 5 changes, and the hair would have to change completely, and
The hair would be short, the hair would be long.
makeup.
The movie
yeah.
actually had to be scheduled completely accordingly to, and that was a different thing. It was a learning curve, I think, for all of us to try to figure out, oh my God, we can't actually shoot her in the same location in 3 different looks. We have to go back to it when she's in a different look.
It's great to see Adrian playing a character so different than the character he plays on Entourage. And he's great at both. And this is probably closer to the real Adrian than Vince on Entourage.
And where were you? Union Square?
We're at
The coffee shop.
the coffee shop on Union Square, which again you see. We're trying to find locations where you see New York in the background.
The Bang & Olufsen phone is referenced in the book, I think.
Yes, it is. But this is a real New York City. Once again, we were on a corner, and you kind of got everything that was going on outside.
This was something from the book. There was a lot in the book about the perks of the job and the wrapping of gifts and all the gifts that Miranda got and all the flowers that she got and all the waste and all the
Oh, that's one thing
all
I'm
the,
sorry
all the
is not.
greed.
It's one thing I'm sorry is not in there more was just how
Well, you wrote it, and
he wouldn't let
it'd
me.
be in the
He
19-hour
wouldn't
version.
allow me.
Yeah.
All the stuff about wrapping presents for everybody, the presents she gets, the presents she gives. That's
Right.
a lot of what they do, and wrapping wine bottles and.
Well, that's what we actually changed the story. It became less about a girl who was embracing the perks and more about a girl who was
Embracing the power.
embracing the power.
Once again,
and-
this
and-
the bag comment, I think, that Eileen had is just brilliant, because I think most men feel, why do women have so many bags? Most women feel really good by having as many as they can.
I gave her a string of unpronounceable names here. It was really
Yeah,
not nice of me.
Amanpour was
Yeah,
was my favorite.
Christian
Yeah.
was a
could
toughie.
have kept going. Fallaci.
Yeah, I
just a
gave
whole
her-
list of unpronounceable journalists.
And then on the day of, I think I said we could give her more easy pronounce, and she was.
She
fine
liked the
with it.
challenge.
She liked it.
Well,
It's also it's complicated name dropping.
that was this was important to sort of convey Andy pulling away from her friends this scene.
And that's where we made her swear. She does some swearing.
This was a very good use of locations. We shot, there were about 2 or 3 locations we shot. Remember, David, within about 5 doors of each other?
This was down in Soho. It was
Right.
a great loft in Soho. And you'll see if you look very closely, and if you know a few of the
Famous
bold-faced
extras.
names in New York nightlife, they walk through the background of this scene.
Excuse me. I'm Andy. I'm picking up from Miranda Priestly.
Oh, yes, you must be the new Emily.
James Holt is one of the
Right.
characters who's not in the book at all. He's a creation of the screen
Yeah,
story.
this character played by Daniel Sunjata.
And we met Daniel, he read for Nigel, for another character, and he wasn't actually interested in doing that because he just played a character that was similar to that. And we Alan Lewis, remember, David, we said, where can we go? Where can we go with him? And I believe Alan came up with the idea for him to be James Holt.
This was one of our more challenging nights. Remember, that loft.
Well, it was unbearably hot.
Yes.
It was about 110, and there were 75 people in there,
And no place for
the
them to
crew,
go.
and no place for anybody to go. And this was Simon Baker's first scene in the movie. Both his introduction as a character and his introduction as an actor. I think he'd done one phone call on the street.
The
The day before.
very trimmed down scene as well with Simon.
Yeah, this was a much longer scene in the screenplay.
We kind of dialed his character a bit to being a little less,
He was a little more confrontational.
a little more confrontational, and she was kind of as well, and we sort of pulled out that exchange.
This was actually this wardrobe, Pat, was actually what Simon, it's his own clothes. He did a screen test from a friend's living room in Australia that he sent to us digitally, and he was wearing exactly this outfit.
Yeah, wasn't this the first scene that he did that
Yeah.
he worked?
Yes.
I mean, he does the phone call. He says, the monuments should be erected in my honor. That was the first day that he worked, and then he came to do this.
Oh, you're kidding. Well, that's too bad. That's... Oh. Never survived Miranda.
I sort of like the idea that Miranda's working for her so notoriously hideous that people across town, on all corners of town, know about it.
Gotta go.
Okay. Well, it was very, very nice to meet you. Miranda girl.
This was something else that you thought was going to be dull, and you made this interesting with the camera move.
Oh,
Because you kept saying this is just a scene with somebody looking through a book.
it was such a scene of somebody looking through a book.
Yeah.
Well,
You made the most of that. Congratulations. That's
thank
good.
you.
Yeah.
You just keep flattering me. And
Okay. I like that. And then you pull
trying to get me to lay off on
that was a tough.
criticism of the script.
Then we just had her flipping through this book and trying to link it to.
A lot of camera movement is out of desperation. Always.
Good morning, Miranda.
Miranda insists upon seeing all the designers' collections before they show them. Great to see you.
And she tells them what she thinks?
In her way.
Well, we shot. I had Aline write 2 whole pages of dialogue for Daniel to do in this sequence that we gave to him the morning of the scene, and he struggled to memorize it.
I wrote them on vacation.
Oh, it was so painful. Do you remember? It was just, I
wrote him a lot of big
We
words
also
and
didn't have
fancy
enough.
words.
We had for some reason hadn't hired enough models for this
Right.
sequence, and Mike Pitt, the second AD, actually it was a Sunday morning, and he ran. We were in Soho, and he ran down to the corner, and this model in the blue dress was actually a PhD candidate at Columbia, was walking her dog, and he said, "Are you a model?" She said, "I used to be," and he said, "Well, you want to be in a movie with Meryl Streep?" And her boyfriend came and watched her work all day. He thought she was maybe going off to do a porno or something. So
We shot that scene where the James Holt was in a real woman's showroom where she designed clothes for a line
Tibby.
called Tibby,
Yeah.
who happened to be my brother's next door neighbor.
We wrote the line about. I wrote the line about him designing a line with Obi belts, and then it seemed.
Yes,
as soon as
Lava
it seemed like
took
all
over
of a
you.
sudden Obi belts were everywhere.
what's this necklace she's wearing, Pat?
That's also from Fred Leighton. It's lapis and coral and jade, and it's all hand carved. It's beautiful.
This was a scene that I wished was a bit longer, and Meryl said to me, "Gee, there are 3 things that I asked her to do, and it seems just like a list, and I wish I had." Just shows you how intimidated I was by Meryl Streep. She said, I'm only going to do 2 things. And I said, okay, stupidly. So then we had to manufacture.
You ruined the
well,
film
we had to,
because you didn't have the courage.
It was one of those days that you weren't there, unfortunately. But so we had to manufacture the moment and music helped a lot to sort of the light bulb going off that Andy's progressed to the point where she deserves to get the key.
Now here we had, for a long time in the script, I had the kind of obligatory in a movie like this, Andy plays music and sings along.
Right.
But we...
trailer moments.
Yes,
Trailer moments,
where
dancing.
we sings Ain't No Mountain High
and-
Enough or something, but we just decided that was...
Too
we'd seen
painful
that.
to shoot.
Two days before we were supposed to shoot this, we lost our location, basically. We weren't able to dress it in time for ready to shoot. And there was a line in the script that I'll be careful in how I use in the that we'd never made it, which is I'll have to pull, what was it, how many fringe bags out of my you-know-what?
Yep.
And David used to say, well, Wendy pulled a blue mansion out of her you-know-what, because I called up my sister and said desperately, who do we know who's got a beautiful townhouse. And she told me to go to my friend Craig Efron's house and called up Craig. And they had just shot it 10 days beforehand for a big architectural magazine. They had just moved into this glorious major league art-filled mansion. David and I ran over there at lunch. Correct, David?
Yeah.
And we checked it out. We went, oh, my God, it's perfect. Then we brought Jess and Meryl back a couple hours later. And literally we moved in, I think, within 24 hours. And we only, one of the things I said, because they were good friends of mine from college and I didn't want to jeopardize my friendship, so I said, I promise that we'll only have the bare minimal crew in the house.
Yeah, we all had to come in our
right.
take our shoes
and
off.
Take our shoes off.
We couldn't
minimal.
Couldn't wire the house. We had to cover all the furniture when we weren't shooting it.
We actually managed not to destroy anything, which is miraculous.
This townhouse was really hard to shoot in. It's 6 stories, and we couldn't put any of the equipment down. Everything had to be.
And everybody was in their socks.
Everyone was. And all this art is spectacularly real. If you watch to the end of the credits, every painting and every mobile and every piece of sculpture is actually credited. And you'll see that it's a museum. It's not just a home, but it's a lovely home on the Upper East Side. Here's a little push-in that we did digitally in post-production that we didn't actually shoot the camera moving there. Mark added that.
Thanks,
to Florian's great distress. And
we had actually considered having her do something more disastrous there, like drop something, break something.
Right.
But we decided her being in there was enough of a transgression, walking up the stairs.
But Annie's great in that scene. I think that just the idea of putting the book on the floor there was her idea. It was one of the first scenes where Meryl had dialogue, and Annie was. I think we all were very intimidated by working with Meryl that first day.
That's a fantastic vest. Who does that?
That
Rick
is
Owen.
Rick Owen. Yep.
James McNaughton is another person I think we should get just a little bit of attention because he's truly we only use him in right
that
now
one scene?
in the movie. He had been, I believe, in two before, but such a little bit. I think it was Ellen Lewis's idea. Correct, David?
Yes.
And Meryl had worked with him before, and he was so excited that he really just jumped at the opportunity to be Meryl's husband.
This is one of the scenes in the office where we try to have a slightly different look and play the rainy day outside and just so it's
we
not
had
always
shot
sun
the
drenched.
exterior first, where
Right.
it was actually raining when she goes outside. So we
tried to
then-
make it match with the inside, actually have some raindrops going down the window, but we also had the light progress during the day. It went from a rainy day to a sunny day at the end of the Harry Potter sequence.
The Harry Potter's a good example of something that we took. We were inspired by the book, and there's a sequence in the book where she tries to get the Harry Potter thing, but we took it and we kind of blew it up and made it one of our big sequences here.
Yeah, in the book, she just has to get a Harry Potter book from the United States to London in a few hours.
And I think Christian picks it up. He's in London, he picks it up and brings it over.
11:30. How am I gonna get the steak? Okay. I will be back in 15 minutes. Wish me luck.
What's this dress that Annie's wearing here?
It's Calvin Klein. Yeah, this was a
And here
really
was the-
long scene, and when I say long scene, many scenes she had this dress on because
It's a long day.
she
in
does
the
a
movie.
lot
it was
stuff.
really important to put her in something that she could move in, run in, and you wouldn't get tired of seeing because you saw it a lot.
Did they show it with that belt? The belt is with the dress?
No, we added the belt.
And the metallic accessories, which are now the rage.
Mm-hmm.
This was obviously shot at the actual Smith & Wollensky's on
And remember, we tried
East
with and
49th
without.
Street.
Oh, yeah. We tried with and without the Kristen Thompson in the bus.
Oh, in the when we were editing. Yeah.
Yes,
couple-
and Mark, can you talk about that because it really worked? It made a point.
Yeah, there were a couple of different versions. We tried a few different ways to do this. There's a whole scene right before this shot with Christian where he was in a cab and we were reintroduced to him. It seemed a bit redundant.
Me. But you have got to calm down. Bloody hell.
My favorite production story was Annie's carrying that Smith & Wollensky bag, and we were shooting this sequence, and she was running with the bag, and we didn't have a Smith & Wollensky bag for some reason. Props didn't have one, and it was a Sunday morning, and Smith & Wollensky wasn't going to be open for hours, and Jess went to Smith & Wollensky at 8 in the morning and pried open the sidewalk grate and found someone in their basement and talked his way in and got a bag.
So we left Jess in the basement.
Well,
I think the steak is also something that people remember about the book.
Yes.
And always ask me about if that's in there.
Raw steak, right?
It's yeah.
That was
Oh,
one
I'm
Hermes
hungry.
plate that was broken that we all kind of, the prop department, Dave took great pride in breaking that one plate.
Annie actually wanted to smash the plates up against the wall. We shot a version of that. It was a little more violent. There was a couple of scenes here that were lifted. There was she kept searching for the Harry Potter. She went to Starbucks to complete Miranda's Starbucks order. Then she decided to quit, and she handed out the Starbucks
Went into the
to
Starbucks,
people
yeah.
on the street and to a homeless
That
guy
was
played
inspired
by
by the-
Radio Man. So
Look, you want this thing, you better hurry. I'll meet you at the St. Regis.
Radio Man, if this makes some of the Radio Man's a man who travels around New York and visits all of the movies that are being shot on location in New York. And he's a friend who was somewhat inspired by the Fisher King character. And he will be seen on our DVD.
He's definitely a sort of local New York guy.
St. Regis was really helpful to us.
We had to make a deal with the St. Regis because we copied it for Paris, and the St. Regis had for the most part, the most opulent, beautiful rooms in all of New York, and it was a great match.
Good, yeah.
One copy. What are my twins going to do with that?
Well, here's another scene that coming up, a little scene that David came up with that I loved and really hope was going to get shot. I did. I could kiss your ass a little. I love the idea. I love the idea of this little smash cut that's coming here, and that's Lauren Weisberger who wrote the book.
Yeah, as the
Playing the
au
nanny.
pair, yeah, on the train to Grandma's. That was the fantastic thing about the production was our ability to actually send out crews and get a lot of these little shots that the main unit could never have gotten, like the shot on the train and a lot of the models in the opening sequence and all the clackers.
I love how Nate's always easy. They're giving you a little bit of $7 worth of Jarlsberg. How many dollars worth of strawberries, Eileen?
That's a time in your life when you know how much everything costs, and you know how much every dish is at every restaurant you go to.
Wait, didn't we have a lot of discussions about what you should wear in this scene?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, there was a big yes. Whether it was going to be the sweatpants, right when she got home, correct?
Well, she felt like she would have changed before she did this.
Changed from running around to get the
Right.
steak and saving her job. And
No, it was better that she wore that dress because it just tells, it sets the time. It's the end of that day.
Yeah.
And
we actually rehearsed the scene that way, and she was very cute in it. And Barrett in the wardrobe department called me into the wardrobe trailer, which was quite a daring thing to do, just summon the director. And he said, I think you're about to ruin your film.
Really?
He said it was really important that she wear the green dress that she'd been running around in all day because that was a runway dress and that was the point of the scene that you'd written. And I decided he was right, that I was about to ruin the film, which I was
You were bent on doing.
which I was
always,
bent on
always,
doing on a
always about to
daily
do.
basis.
Yep.
And then we're going into a scene in Central Park, and this is a great opportunity just to say what an enchanted experience making the movie was, and the collaboration with all the executives at Fox, and especially at Fox 2000, Elizabeth Gabler and Carla Hack, and how much they contributed to the development of the script and the making of the film. And we were still adding scenes and rewriting scenes as the movie was shot. And it was really important to Elizabeth and Carla that we have a little bit more real fashion world, and they wanted to do a funny, outlandish fashion shoot. So models as in animal garb was an idea they came up with, and we got lucky. We got a spectacular day in Central Park. And Pat, you can talk a little bit about these print clothes.
oh yeah, well, actually, Molly found my associate Molly found the animal print gowns. They were a combination from Ferret and Roberto Cavalli, and some of those gowns were enormous. They were just gorgeous. I hadn't seen the Ferret ones, and it was fantastic because they were it was a couture cut and a couture size, but it was like sort of a cotton gauze animal prints. They were beautiful.
And Bridget Hall came in to be a model in the sequence.
It's also a glorious day that everybody had such a great time shooting that day.
It was our first day back from scouting in Paris. Now, this was a sequence that was actually much shorter in the screenplay, in which we expanded on the day we shot. Aline wrote some additional dialogue. And it came from Meryl's imperative to see Miranda at work. And I thought it might be really fun to shoot a whole editorial meeting. And it's tricky because there's not much narrative content. It's only when Emily comes in at the end of the scene that the story picks up again. This is all character, but it shows Miranda's power and strength
and her
And
inability
wit.
to be pleased as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's all no, no, no.
And Nigel's position in the whole.
And
in the
how
whole
much
group.
she
in the
trusts
pecking
him.
order.
Yeah. And I think it gets the terror that these grown people are experiencing around Meryl. It really gets us across. They're just all terrified, down to George.
Well, I remember
Who's such a
who
dignified
just completely
gentleman.
loses it. Yeah. Emily was amazing playing
Well,
sick.
this is fun.
She was
this is funny
so
because
convincingly
Yeah.
sick.
when we were working on the script, Wendy said, "Well, I don't know if she would have her come to work when she's so sick." And then I reminded Wendy that she made me come to her house.
Oh, the first
when
yes,
I was...
when Eileen, for our second meeting, she was deathly ill, and she said, I'm so sick, I can't come. I'm so sick, I've got 2 kids, I can't come to work. I can't come to the meeting. I said, excuse me, I've got 4 kids, and I've been sick. You're coming to the meeting.
So I came. I brought my own matzo ball soup.
Right. But we got through it. We got a script.
Yeah, but took care of your note on this scene.
And the makeup department was so fabulous in making her look like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer with a horrible cold.
Great piece of improv from Emily coming up here.
There's no improv in the
Yes.
movie.
No.
Did I
It's
say
totally
It's all
improv?
scripted.
It's
Yeah.
Did I say
scripted.
improv?
Elaine
This
has the
is a hand one.
storyboards in her basement.
It's a hand one.
Yes, it's some hand acting.
Which reminds me, we tried storyboards at one point. Florian, you remember that?
Yes, that was a short-lived experience.
That will not be in the deleted
No,
version.
we won't be publishing it.
You won't be seeing those. You won't be scanning,
I have never seen those.
clicking through those.
No. It wasn't really, the movie didn't really lend itself to being storyboarded. We really had to find a lot of it as we were doing it, I think.
This was also the first time, the only time we saw Meryl on her computer, or Miranda working on her computer, which I always loved that because she would use one. Remember we talked about that, David?
Mm-hmm.
And her office was
I
decorated.
remember everything, Wendy. You don't have to ask me what I remember.
No, at her office, every little detail there with her office, there was only 2 photos, one of her daughters, one of her family. Everything was really meticulous.
That's the 5th or 6th. That's all, I think.
Should have a little "that's all" counter in the corner.
That's all drinking game.
yet
That's
it-
all drinking game.
Yeah.
Every time she says that's all. Or I'm confused.
Have you made? Is there a "that's all" T-shirt at Amazon.com? Not yet. So then this is a Galliano gown. That much I remember.
Mm-hmm.
That Bergdorf's, Pat, remember? It was a big thought.
Pat remembers everything.
I know,
Wendy.
too. Thank you. Thank you, David. I thought of that. As if she forgot about you.
Oh, but I think you remember more, David.
Hanging that banner was a trick for Jess. There's one guy at the Natural History Museum. It was tricky figuring out what museum in New York we were going to shoot.
That was the trickiest part.
You know, we wanted to have a scene on the steps with Christian. We added Nigel into the sequence at the last moment, and he had this great tuxedo.
No, this was a big location challenge to find this exterior and then find an interior that would work with it. We looked at a million different things until we settled on that very late in the movie.
That night
And
also
it was a cold night. All these
freezing.
people had to, all these people playing as if they're warm, and these poor actresses in skimpy gowns.
Well, we were in a warm tent with 5,
I'm about to faint. I eat a cube of cheese. Well, it's definitely working. I know. I'm just one stomach flew away.
I sort of like the fact that it's a Cinderella moment, what traditionally would be a Cinderella moment, but they're backstage people, so they're not on the red carpet.
And then this scene was made in the cutting room. This was just some kind of B-roll of that we shot in the moment. Let's just get Meryl walking through the crowd, and Mark created that sequence.
Well, to
Some
show you
nice,
also what goes on in editing, Mark, we shot this scene for 2 days, and it's probably less than 2 minutes in the movie.
It's been reduced a bit, yeah.
This was shot actually in the lobby of a courthouse in
Right.
Lower Manhattan, across the street from City Hall.
Jacqueline is not in the book. And how did it come about that she was
Pure
with
invention.
Irv at the party?
I think she met Irv outside. I don't know, I don't know
just
why
said,
she was with
I
Irv.
have no control
Maybe
over
they're
this
having,
set.
They're having an
You
affair.
wanna go?
It's like a whole
Go.
lot.
Yeah.
One of the most manipulated scenes editorially, I think, in the whole film.
Yeah, the people who come up to meet Miranda here are all
kind of out of order.
shot in a different
Yeah.
sequence. Mm-hmm. And some of these ad-libs with Tibor and Meryl became important in the movie, just to understand their
But this
relationship.
thing that they came up with, the fact that she has a boss and she's trying to talk about work with him and he blows her off, that was,
Kind of how I blow you off all the time when
Yeah.
you're trying to talk about work with me.
it's true.
What is Meryl's wearing Valentino in
Yes.
this
Yes,
sequence? And Emily obviously is wearing Valentino also.
yes.
I actually know the names of a few designers. I've learned a lot in this process.
You know, a
Well, I-
freakish amount of
I
about designers.
I went in 2
for a
days.
man who dresses the way you do. This is an important scene, I think, for Emily and Andy, and sort of as much as they become friends and bond. This is the moment. She hands her a tissue, and they help each other out. They develop a kind of friendship.
And even the tissue handing was
It was all
Annie's-
scripted.
Yeah, that was in the storyboards in your basement. No, that
Yes.
was Annie's notion. And this was tricky. I mean, I think this sequence is indicative of one of the challenges we faced in structuring the film, because there's a lot of sleight of hand. What Andy does in the course of the movie is actually very slight. In this case, she remembers the name of one dignitary visiting the party, and she's ultimately rewarded with a huge promotion for that. And yet, I think you believe that she's transformed herself into a valued aide.
And also, we're sort of setting up Emily a little bit for her slide in Miranda's eyes, I think, by being sick in the first place and by forgetting the name of the other person.
It's the real first tempting of Andy, where you see she almost goes for it.
This was a nice, subtle bit of writing, because you get a sense of Andy's ambition without her ever having to show it.
This is one scene that had been many different forms or many various attempts at it. And this is kind of emerged through the development
Well,
process
this is
as
a scene
the
that-
cleanest, best version of itself.
And it's a scene that's actually in the book,
Yes.
where she runs into Christian on the steps
Yep.
of the museum. Eric Seltzer playing Roy. He's actually an actor and an actual limo driver.
Who picked me up one day and asked if he could be in the movie, and I sent him down Lewis. And since that, he's driven a lot of us and had a good 10 weeks running being a limo driver.
We had written various birthday parties and events and bowling parties, things that Andy was late
Concerts.
to.
Oh,
Concerts.
yeah.
Right.
She's missed many events, and it boiled down to a party you don't see and a cupcake.
Yeah, you don't see it. We ran out of time. We were going to shoot a scene where she showed up late to the restaurant and met Rich and Tracy, and we just cut it out of the schedule. We went over another day. This was a strangely difficult scene to shoot. It took us forever. We had just come back from Paris, and Karen Roosevelt, I think, thought we were completely jet lagged. It was a very short scene. It took
Which
us
you claim is not true.
more than half a day.
Now, the Central Park scene that we saw before originally came right after this scene.
Yeah,
and
that was-
before this
Yes.
next scene.
Right.
Put out a sequence.
And so
What
we
to do?
changed. There was a line where she said, "My personal life is falling apart,"
Right.
because it followed this.
Became my personal life is hanging by a thread.
This is a fantastic hat.
I'm glad you like it.
Fantastic. And
Chanel.
she takes it off. It goes back. I love this hat. You have to have confidence to wear that hat.
It's actually the first scene that Annie and Meryl did together. And Annie was terrified. She just couldn't believe that she was about to work with Meryl Streep. And that sense of intimidation, I think, really worked in the scene.
And this is an example of Meryl makes the choice to work through this entire scene, to look through the book, through the whole scene, even though she's asking something rather momentous. And I think that's a really good choice to show that it just never stops for Miranda. She doesn't have a moment to waste. And even though she's asking, this is a moment that is crucial in Andy's life, and it's just another moment of Miranda trying to get what she needs done efficiently. And she doesn't even have time to look up from the book.
Life is about Paris. She hasn't eaten in weeks. I can't.
There's a wig, obviously. Meryl has beautiful blonde hair. But she decided she didn't want to look like a suburban soccer mom, which she insists she does look like in real life. So this was her inspiration, the white wig. There were no tests or anything, but she looked gorgeous. The minute she put it on, she was Miranda, and everybody embraced it.
I was really for it because having a white wig gave me such a great thing to go against.
It was so distinct. It was so and it was so powerful, and it was so confident, and
Also,
it also so beautiful.
That made her an icon right away. When you have the confidence to wear your hair, now with a natural color like that, you become an icon.
There was a real sense on the set whenever Meryl showed up in the white wig and in her Miranda outfits that she was Miranda, and she kept her distance from the crew. She wasn't friendly. She was very aloof. She was available, but she was distant, and that kept everybody on their toes. And you really had a sense that you were coming to work in the presence of Miranda Priestly, and it made everybody
Bring their best game.
bring their A game, as Tiger Woods would say.
The youngness of... That's her.
Yeah, that's Annie's mother, Kate Hathaway, in the photo, along with David Marshall Grant.
5 minutes, okay?
Didn't we put Nate in this just because he was around in the scene, or was he always in
the scene? No, he was always in the scene. That was scripted, I think, unless we check the storyboards in Eileen's basement.
That was not, the coming to bed was not.
Was not storyboarded?
No, it was not in my secret file.
That was Nate.
That was Nate.
Nate wrote that himself.
This was your idea, Florian, the empty office sequence.
Because all the actors were so tired they didn't come to work that day.
It's all we could shoot.
Nobody else was there.
And this construct, the idea that Miranda chooses Andy over Emily to go to Paris, was in it something that we invented that didn't exist in the book. In the book, she gets sick or flakes out, and it's all a happy accident for Andy, and we turned it into plot. And that was sort of the first, in the course of the film, the first big deviation from the book. This moment now when Meryl comes in and says, "Don't forget to tell Emily," that was inspired by I was watching Project Runway, and these reality shows where they make the contestants actually choose amongst themselves, and I thought it was so dog eat dog, and it was so frightening, and I thought that it was exactly the kind of moment that the film needed, where not only did Andy have to take Emily's job, but she had to give her the news.
And it's the ultimate delegation of your evil deeds.
It's one of the great New York shots with the long lenses, her on Madison Avenue.
Exactly. Well, good, because I've got so much to deal with before I go, I swear to God.
But this is also one of our challenges. Is like how could we have Andy have her cake and eat it too, not have
right.
where she would supplant Emily, but not Emily wouldn't have the right to fight back because she's in the
hospitalized.
hospital. So that was also an important moment, not in the book at all, where Emily ends up in the hospital.
A challenge throughout the entire movie was all of our characters spent a lot of the time on the phone. And you just can't have them sitting there, just talking, sitting at a desk. I mean, so we were really, a great effort was made to have them be walking and talking
And this looks like a green screen, like we built a set and created this fabulous backdrop, but it actually exists. There's
Lenox Hill
Hospital on Park Avenue, and this was an actual brand new wing of the hospital that hadn't yet opened. So some lucky sick person is in this room now.
Or soon, hopefully lucky, healthy person now.
It's the clothes that you're gonna get. I mean, you don't deserve them. You eat.
There was a big debate about how injured Emily should actually be. Wanted to make it vaguely realistic, but not horrifying, exactly. we needed some hospital food, and amazingly, no one could find pudding. We had a 2 or 3 hour pudding delay in the course of the production, while the prop people hunted down hospital-style pudding and eventually just ran to D'Agostino's and bought a 6-pack of pudding cups or something. This was actually a clothing store in Soho that Jess turned into a gallery with these huge photographs of New York.
Nicolas Ghesquière was the fun-to-pronounce designer name that was
Yes.
dug up.
And he has his own line, or does he design for...
Ghesquière's for
No.
Dior, right?
No,
No.
Balenciaga.
Balenciaga.
So he's
See?
actually technically an error because he wouldn't show in Paris. He would show in Milan. But it's just a fun name.
Dior is Galliano, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I want Florian to talk about this shot because this is a great dolly shot.
This is one of the few times we attempted to do a one or to do something that really works in movement and try to, and not just rely on the editing, which is, so important for a lot of the other things in a comedy, but it just felt right to have this movement, to have that movement to his sort of seductive little dance around her. And I think it ended up really capturing it.
I think the music underneath this also supports it.
The song by
Right.
Bittersweet.
Yeah, with the swirling quality that it has.
Mark, on a separate note, just for throughout the movie, the sounds of the city is something that when we were mixing and putting the sound in at the end, talk about that. The sirens and the honks.
Yeah, we embraced it when the sound, when the production audio became a little tenuous in terms of our ability to use it because of all the background noise. The performance really dictated that we would embrace it and go with it and let it be a little dirty. And the next scene will show
Well, we
you.
shot the next scene on Halloween night. A lot of this sequence was shot on Halloween night. It was really noisy, and there were parades all through Soho and helicopters over, TV crews shooting them.
And cars
from choppers
driving
and
past.
Cars
right
driving
past,
past
yeah.
on cobblestone streets.
Because
and
we
it
were
was
near the
really,
village.
really noisy, and we're playing a really intimate breakup scene and struggling. But I think our sound department TJ O'Mara did a beautiful job.
Incredibly well mixed by Tom Fleischman and sound edited by Paul Armstrong.
You're gonna give me a hard time too.
Hey, Andy, what the hell is wrong with you?
This was hard to do.
What's Adrian wearing in this scene, Pat? This is fatigues from...
Yeah. From the Army Navy
Levi's.
store.
This was hard to do, the back-to-back people yelling at her. And David came up with the idea of having him overhear a little bit of Tracy's thing so that we could keep it continuous, because we used to have 2 blocks, two scenes here.
Yeah, we have, both characters are giving her a hard time for essentially the same thing. But they're coming from slightly different places, and it works.
Love how the scene's lit, and you'll see all the lights. It just is the blinking
Sparkly
lights.
bits. Sparkly bits.
Yes. We tried to capture them as much as we could.
I remember our Chinese lanterns. Florian was a big buyer of Chinese
Yes.
lanterns.
This was actually shot with 2 cameras just to have a prayer of getting it with all the noise and all the struggle we had going on that night, and it worked out well.
And it made Annie's life easier. I mean, she was working so hard to sort of get emotional and then pull it back. You can see her. I think you really feel her pain in the scene.
Yeah, she nailed it. And here we have the cell phone coming in, which specifically we picked to be as annoying as possible and as intrusive as possible.
I don't think anybody's ever going to have that ring again.
I know.
The big event was actually we went to Patricia Field's Halloween party after we wrapped that night. At Pat's party, though, I did see my first transsexual striptease. That was that night a memorable moment where I won't go into graphic detail, but the dancer did.
And that was the night your life changed?
That was the last time I went to a party at Pat's. Well, this is this great song by U2, City of Blinding Lights, which during the pre-production phase was almost our anthem.
One
Really
thing-
inspiring. And when Pat and I went to Paris last July 2005 for the haute couture shows, and I shot some video as we traveled around, and almost a video storyboard which I cut to this song, never thinking that we'd actually get the opportunity to use the song in the movie. It's really just really captures the experience of somebody going to Paris for the first time.
Well, we were trying to get to Paris, working on whether or not we could afford it. We were concerned about one thing about it being December and Christmas lights. And actually,
It adds a lot.
It adds so much to the movie.
These fashion shows is between Jess and our construction crew. These were all shot in one night and on one set, and they would just transform the set. We would
At
shoot.
Capitol.
We would shoot. The models would go change, and these are the actual designer clothes, Pat, right from Azzaro and Chakras and Valentino.
Exactly.
And then Jess's crew would transform the stage, and everybody would move.
Heidi Klum.
And Valentino, Wendy, who you corralled at the last moment to be in the movie.
That was wonderful because we really got to create a fashion show for Valentino with Giancarlo and all his partners and his whole posse, that Carlos Souza, who he travels with, and they sat in formation the way they would sit at a real Valentino show. So it was real fun.
And Pat in Paris had taken me to backstage at the Dior show, and which was also in a tent in the back of the runway, and I wanted to recapture that experience.
Is this shot in 16 millimeter, Florian?
There's always some little bits of 16. I mean, there's like 3 or 4 shots, I think, in this.
Robert Verity, who's a real fashion reporter, interviewing Miranda.
And I think, as Eileen said before, it's fun because you see people who are on the periphery of fame,
Right, exactly.
This is actually complete falsehood. I mean, an assistant, someone who answered phones, wouldn't actually travel with her boss to Paris for the shows. I mean, the editors do go with an entourage, but probably not their assistants. They would have probably assistants in Paris.
The editors go.
So now we're back in the St. Regis Hotel in New York, actually. This is the presidential suite there.
This was a scene that we wrote pretty spare, and I thought, well, if Meryl needs more, she'll ask for more, and she never did.
Chart for the luncheon.
Okay.
I personally love this dress on Annie Hathaway.
Was that a
And
dress?
this was an amazing
It's a dress.
moment when
It's a
Meryl
Dolce
showed up.
Gabbana.
Meryl showed up to do the scene without any makeup.
And she walked in, didn't talk to anybody, sat down and did it, got up and left, went downstairs and waited.
Well, it was a very hard scene.
It's really amazing.
And Anne was sick, right?
Yeah, I think Anne was really unwell this day. Struggled to come to work that day, and yet looks stunning. We could not have enough flowers in this room.
No. Or enough boxes or bags of any luxury good item that could be purchased.
This was a great dress. I think it's a Dolce dress that Annie's wearing, and it was so low cut, the dress. It was actually lower cut when she put it on, and I went to the wardrobe. I said, you gotta sew it up. Doesn't look like we changed much, but we did.
Another divorce. Splashed across page 6.
And yet another example of a scene where Annie has almost no dialogue at all. It's a long speech by Miranda.
She's an amazing listener. And
Well, we
it
go
was-
through from here to the end of the film. There are 3 huge sequences in the film where nobody moves, and Miranda is talking throughout the sequence, and Annie has no dialogue. And yet we're with her. We're seeing Miranda through her eyes.
But that's interesting because this is a scene that didn't change a lot. Some of the scenes we had many iterations of. This was one that
In the writing, yeah.
Well, of course.
Well, then there's an ad lib about Rupert,
Rupert
which
and
was
Leslie.
Meryl's. Meryl,
Right.
But you really have a sense when you're watching the scene that you're getting that peek behind the curtain. And it's, I think, why so many people read the book, is the opportunity to voyeuristically peek behind the curtain of this world. And now we're in the world, and now we go behind the curtain of Miranda Priestly herself.
Right.
And that was the genius of this really vulnerable performance.
And that it's a very brief glance, and it's almost inadvertent.
Yep, and boom, there the doors just slams down, shut again. And here in Teddy's score, there's it's a very short cue, but it combines the Miranda theme and the Andy theme, and I think the only time in the movie
This
we
is
hear
as
them
close
both.
as this gets to being a buddy movie. How many times do we say that's all, Mark? Do you know? I think 4.
Boy,
Each
that's not a
time-
question.
Each time it gets a laugh, too.
But that is the time she uses it, and it's sort of somber, and it's almost like a reflex.
This close-up was actually requested by Mark Lavalsey, the editor. He said, we need to get deep inside Andy at this moment, and then he added the brief flashback, which I thought was really poignant. So this was the first night that Stanley worked, and it was frightening for him because he was just finding
That's right.
Nigel, and it was a question of terms of how extravagant Nigel should actually be.
And the final details of his look and the vest and the shirt and the glasses and
The ring.
the ring.
There's a whole thing about the logic of the champagne, right, David?
Well, he had where was he getting the champagne from, and where were the glasses conveniently laid out, and
That was something where I think I wrote alternates on my BlackBerry and sent them over. We were trying to figure
yeah.
out. Yeah.
But then it's a movie.
Right.
It's
He
a
just
movie, and
Walks
it's
out.
just-
Walks out. Comes
everyone
back
in
with
Paris
champagne.
has champagne chilled, waiting,
Right, with glasses.
right outside the living
And I love
room.
even the detail here of the flowers that are still in the wrapping. That because in that the way the Europeans deliver their flowers. But Florian, there were some special effects in all of these shots with the views.
No, this view
No,
is
this is
actual.
not. This is
that's-
actual
This is
Fifth
shot
Avenue.
in St.
We shot this
Regis,
in
and
the-
that's across the street from St. Regis.
Oh,
yeah.
then it's with the I know. I'm sorry.
It just looked so much like Paris that we couldn't resist
We
it.
just had to go for it.
There was a big debate about Nigel's glasses, whether they should be
That's
tortoiseshell,
amazing,
whether they should be
'cause
black,
there's a
whether they
big
should be
debate about
wearing.
your glasses.
Yeah, well, Nigel, it's
It's
me.
It's me debating myself normally about your glasses. Everyone else really digs them.
As long as you make that clear.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Everybody digs them. Sort of your signature thing.
Was fortuitous about this particular location is that we could actually light the building across the street, and it looks vaguely Parisian because we're meant to be in Paris, but actually it's I think it's 58th Street in New York, 56th Street. And that whole bit, did you write that? The little bit at the end of that scene? No, I think that was improvised.
That was improvised.
Size
yes.
6,
Size
size 4.
4.
Yeah, that was. It was just surprising the quick chemistry that they had. That was the first night that the actors were working together. This was lovely because we shot this scene. It took a long time, surprisingly. Just great actors doing close-ups.
This was a sad day where we lost some of our footage to the lab.
Which is why most of it is close-ups.
Right. Which works well for the scene, but there was a couple of little details we had, of course we had to shoot it in New York.
Hours of photography. Yeah, this
Hours
is
of
a
we had to
French
shoot-
restaurant on the Upper East Side.
And we tried to make it, really make it look like Paris, and we put little smart cars outside and little, Peugeots and a guy outside with oysters that I always insisted on, and it had to be an oyster guy outside in order for it to look like Paris, and sadly
And
didn't make
it was
movie.
yeah,
We
all
didn't even need
gone.
There's a line there about if she were a man, she would be judged differently, which was something that was Wendy felt strongly about, and we felt strongly about that we get that in there.
That's Notre Dame for
This is
anybody
actually
who
in
hasn't
Paris,
been to
just in
Paris.
case
Yeah, this is actually in Paris. It's not a backdrop. This was the last scene that we shot on our last night of photography of the whole film, day 57.
We were sort of struggling with for our limited time in Paris to try to make sure to capture as much of it as possible without making every shot look like a postcard. So it became a sort of a fine balance of just really making sure you get where you are without being cheesy.
But this is another example of where the fact that it was Christmas in Paris, Christmas time in Paris when we were shooting, added to the sparkliness of the sequence.
How many shooting days did you have in Paris, all told?
We shot 2 days with Annie and Simon. And then there was some second unit shooting where we shot the plates.
The plates for the limo that's coming
Right.
up later.
His
And
scarf,
also
his
some
scarf
of the
makes a return
establishing
appearance.
shots for the City of Blinding Lights montage.
Right.
Thank you.
There's another line coming out of your basement here, Aline, where I think that's Annie improvised
What?
my hearing, my...
This is the visual effects
That's
hotel.
a visual shot.
This is actually a hotel in Times Square that we shot and put green screen out the window and had a little Eiffel Tower just to make sure people know it's Paris.
It's actually a keychain that we dangled outside. This hotel room is actually in Times Square. This is at the W Hotel in Times Square on the 57th floor or something.
So the view out the window couldn't have been more different.
And that room definitely was not.
But we chose this room because we wanted to have an environment that was very different from that St. Regis hotel room that was representing Christian, that was more angular and modern. Cold was, the stage of the relationship is about to go south.
What the hell is this?
What does it look like? It's a marker.
This is a spectacular outfit, Pat. I don't know what she's wearing, but it's memorable. Sort of a dominatrix quality.
I'm trying to.
Is it Dolce, Pat?
Yeah, it's Dolce.
Jacqueline's a lot younger than Miranda. She has a fresher take on things.
This is also quite an invention from the book. Christian kind of doesn't play much of a role in any of the story beats.
In any plot.
In any plot, yeah. We sort of toyed with having him be more in control, less in control, but in this he's just sort of a bit of a cog, although he doesn't know it.
Party for James.
And she has no idea.
She's a big girl. She'll be fine.
Pat, what's Simon wearing? yeah, Field crest. And this was a big debate we had, whether Andy should actually sleep with Christian or not. Would that sully her character too much, and was it too soon after Nate would the audience accept her, like her? And that's this great bridge. This is obviously in Paris.
And the St. Regis.
It was freezing that day in Paris. It was always freezing.
Freezing in Paris.
In Paris. That's another one of those great brocaded jackets, Pat.
Jeffrey Bean, Pat?
Bill Blass. I wish Jeffrey were alive today. He'd certainly be in our movie.
But I was wondering,
You completely lost your mind.
I need to talk to you.
Do not disturb me.
But
See how that looks great with her hair?
And the white plain shirt, just
Yeah,
the crisp
that's
shirt.
great.
So fresh.
What we really did with this scene is the studio wanted us to make cuts, and we had, a week before we start production, you got a call and said, please, we have to cut 10 pages to make the production. And a lot of the short sequences like that one with Irv, from here to the end of the film, were actually cut. Some flashbacks and later sequences were actually eliminated from production.
And also anything that was outside in Paris, we tried to draw a line
And
through.
I went to the producer and I said, Joe Caracciolo, and I said, Joe, we have to shoot these scenes. I don't care that we can't afford them. And he struggled to make it possible. And they really had a lot of things. We had to do 17 takes of that shot, and one of them was a retake because my cousin Jack wandered into the scene. It was the minute Meryl left camera, boom, there was my cousin Jack in his white windbreaker. So we ended
What
up
was he doing there?
He just was trying to find his way off the set, and he wandered right into the scene.
How many family members did you have on the set?
Usually 20 or 30 at any one time. No, the
Family.
My dad came to the set a lot. My dad Max came 2 or 3 times a week to check in and.
Did he actually direct the film, David?
And choose lenses.
Choose lenses and talk to the actors.
He did hair and makeup.
It was his boa, wasn't it?
He worked very closely with Roy Helen on Meryl's look.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout this this scene, I tried to find any piece I could of Stanley, like that, just sort of being a little endearing, just a little more human, so that
Humble.
when the knife really went in at the end, then you felt it as much as possible, sympathize with him.
This was an interesting day for us because we had to shoot it all in one day, and it was the room in the St. Regis, which is on the top floor, and we couldn't put lights out the windows, obviously, and it was going to go into night, so we had to put fluorescent lights outside all the windows and make them look like it's actual daylight out there.
Transforming the work of this visionary artist into...
That's Davide Caligari, who played Massimo.
Massimo used to have he had a scene that went in and out.
Yes. That lived. It's also in your basement.
Massimo was one of those guys that they saw at the benefit and in a scene that was cut out.
President of James Holt International. He chose from within the Runway family.
This is a great collection of extras. I think the background in the movie, the casting of the background actors was really well done in the film. A lot of these people just look Parisian. That's Stephanie Shostak. She's actually a French
Right.
American actress. Lives here in New York.
But this is the moment that I was referring to earlier where Stanley had read the script and I as well misinterpreted it. David, that's what I wanted you to explain.
Well, it wasn't clear if Nigel knew that he was, before he came to the luncheon, that he wasn't getting the job, or whether he's finding out in this moment. And I said to Stanley, no, you don't know, and you find out in this moment, and you to imagine that you're at the Academy Awards and the camera's on you, and you just found out that you didn't win. And he said, I can do that. And now, finally, we're back in the real Paris just for a moment. And the moment we get back into the car, now we're shooting the scene in a soundstage in Queens.
I've known what was happening for quite some time.
This car scene is done green screen. We didn't take them to Paris, obviously, and we discovered early on when we did another shot in the car that it was very hard to light inside the actual car and to put the camera where we wanted to put it. So we decided that we had to cut the car in half, and obviously that wasn't a very popular idea at first because it was a brand new $100,000 Mercedes S-Class. But then,
and you being a German, of course,
being a German, it was really not a good thing to suggest destroying a car. But they actually let us do it because it was a pre-production model. They said, no, look, we can't sell it anyway. So
they were going to destroy it anyway.
Yeah, so we ended up being able to cut this brand new car in half and put the camera where we needed it and the lights, and it was really beneficial.
This was a scene that Meryl and I talked a lot. We talked a lot about the first time I met her, and then we had a version of it. And a few days before this was shot, I was on the set with Meryl, and I said, "Is there anything I can do in that scene that would help you?" And she wanted less, which she always wanted it to be simpler. And we pared down the explanation a little bit.
This, I think, is the most beautifully written scene in the movie, and when we shot it, it was just the two actresses sitting in half a car on an empty stage.
Towards the end of the shoot, right?
Yeah.
It was in the last week of the shoot. And the scene played even when all you saw was green screen out the window, but it's the magic when we added Paris, and reminded me of the classic scene on the waterfront. Just these two great characters facing off at the end of a film.
I have to hand it to my assistants, David Brago and Amanda Pollock, for putting this together in terms of the plates outside the window and really sort of being on top of the detail, the attention to detail regarding, just making sure the follow-through was perfect.
We shot the scene first in New York, and then we went to Paris later and shot the plates, knowing exactly what the angles were for the shots, and reproduced those angles so we could make it look as real as possible.
Yeah, there are actually 4 locations in the sequence coming up when they get out of the car that are combined in the sequence. There's the car, and then there's that exterior plate, which was shot in one location in Paris with the French extras, and then when Meryl gets out of the car, now this shot was in New York with American extras.
Back in Paris.
And then we're back in Paris on Annie, but we're yet in a different location in Paris. And this was just a gorgeous theme that Teddy wrote. Not at all what I would have anticipated scoring the film with. I think Amanda Pollock had the idea to put it in here.
It's a historical society in New York on Central Park and 77th.
Right, not the shot of Annie walking away, the closest.
No,
That was the Petit Palais in
Yes.
Paris.
Exactly. And Joe Cracciola literally had the fountain cleaned for us. So it was glistening and perfect and beautiful.
And turned on. It wasn't on the day we were scouting. We were a little worried. They were still doing construction on it.
Now, in 5 minutes, you lost the Eiffel Tower, right?
Right, this was about 2 minutes after we shot this sequence. Cloud cover took over. It was a very cloudy day.
We'd always debated how much material you needed after she throws the phone in the fountain, and how many scenes.
Because it feels like it could be the ending of the movie.
Right. But it started to seem like there were a lot of people she needed to make it up to, and that the audience would want to know
we needed to redeem her.
Right,
Yes.
redeem her, and also the audience would want to know where she was heading and where they were heading.
While we have a fairly static scene of two people talking in a restaurant, we actually get a vibrant backdrop.
I don't think you're sufficiently showcasing Adrian's brilliant blue, azure, cerulean blue eyes.
I know, and Karen Roosevelt probably agrees with you. It's
She
not
does.
enough, not enough close-ups of Adrian. But if you go to Karen's website, she probably has
Compendium of
a lot of
Adrian
footage of
photos.
the Nate unit's full work. Karen Roosevelt is the producer of the film.
She took a shine to Adrian rather early.
There's another one of our interior-exterior locations. Really, just we've done that in a booth in a coffee shop and just.
Which coffee shop is this? The May Rose?
This is the May Rose.
We experimented with ending this scene at different points because there are about 3 places where you could naturally end.
I like to do that. I like to build in a few endings, a few outs. You can pull the ripcord wherever you want. 2 lines in, 6 lines in.
Makes it easier.
Do you have them organized in your basement back then?
Yeah. But I one thing that was important when we were working on it was to really capture that relationship that you have when you're young, when you're in your early 20s, and this sense of you don't know what's going to happen with them, and that they're making choices in their life, and they're choosing what their future's going to be, and could line up, could not line up.
One thing Annie did all through the film in every scene, and she's in every scene except that conference room scene, is do a lot of takes, do a lot of variations on her performance. Give us a lot of latitude in the cutting room. It's John Rothman playing the editor. It's an old friend of Meryl's. They went to Yale together. And I had worked with him on From the Earth to the Moon for HBO. Just thought he was perfect for this character.
I like the visual contrast between this.
Well, this is a real newspaper office.
Yes.
This is the New York Sun and
A new newspaper.
down
New
Lower
York.
Manhattan.
Yes.
And just
And
couldn't
we
be more
walked
different.
in, it's just so distinct from the Runway office and
It was perfect. I don't think there was
so
one
authentic.
Must have done something right.
And there's a nice, Annie's dressed beautifully here. She's not quite the old Annie. She has more style from having gone through her experience at Runway, but she's back in jeans and more casual clothes. And this was a scene we added in the middle of shooting. Elizabeth Gabler decided that we hadn't seen Emily for a long time, and it would be sad to finish the film without seeing Emily again. So we created this scene.
And we always thought people might be curious as to what happened to the clothes, what Andy would do with her wardrobe.
It's all about the clothes.
I was wondering if you could take them off my hands.
Well, I don't know. It's a huge imposition.
And there was a big question about who was going to play the replacement for Andy in the scene. And it was only at the last minute we decided to cast somebody, and the extras casting department rounded up 10 women in a dance hall in Times Square, and we had to choose this lovely girl. It was her first acting job. She had gone to work that morning as an assistant at Sotheby's and wound up acting in the movie with Emily Blunt and Meryl Streep and Annie Hathaway.
Ironically, that's where Annie trained to get ready for this part. She went to work at an auction house to get ready.
Was this Meryl's first day?
This was one of Meryl's first days. That was interesting that we shot the ending really early in the shoot. And yet both actresses had a great sense of where they were going with the characters.
Everybody also made a very big effort to have New York be such a character in the movie as well. And I think that this last scene really kind of get the feeling of Midtown New York and what it's like to be just one little person working in such a...
Well, we've almost praised ourselves more than we could possibly bear. 2 hours of self-congratulation.
And yet the word "go" is my favorite line.
People love that.
That was actually
that hard
scripted.
to write go?
That was actually
Go?
scripted.
How was go?
Was something that
In fact, that's the only line in the whole movie that was scripted. Everything else was
How did you
ad-libbed.
think of go? Was it
Everything
go or
else
stop?
David wrote in a taxi cab on the way to work in the morning.
These are all real people. This is Annie walking through a
Florian, this is a crane shot.
real
Nice
crowd.
big
yeah.
crane. Florian?
Yes, it is a nice big crane.
Poor
It actually
Florian.
looks like there's no traffic. A minute before, we had complete traffic jam.
Yeah, there was a standstill.
I was saying that David is sort of like Andy in that he began the movie wearing Nike sweatshirts and jeans, and sometime during the shoot got a new pair of jeans.
No,
it
But by the end of the
transformed.
movie,
Yeah.
he was wearing the old jeans.
And new,
He was back in the original
I mean,
jeans.
have
No,
you
they
seen
were.
this
They had
jeans
become
lately?
old.
Have you seen
The shoot was so long.
And
that-
Florian's sitting here in
it's my
beautiful
deep
little
my deep
loafers without
education
the
in fashion.
socks. Florian's
No, but
looking
It's
chic
very
as
LA.
always.
My dry fit shirts got more colorful.
Yeah,
I
they
think,
got
through
he
the-
branched into
And
royal
your
blue.
jeans kind of got a little more tattered, I must say.
I have seen
Yeah.
David once in a shirt that didn't have a swoosh on it. Once.
It was black, it was white.
Oh, the suit, but then also I've seen him in a yellow shirt. He does have a yellow shirt.
Did you see his Nike suit?
A dry fit suit.
It's a Nike tux.
So you have a dry fit tie that
Yeah.
goes with my suit.
Turns out the people think the glasses are chic, though.
I know.
Yeah.
They're back in.
I know.
I know Pat did that.
Right.
Pat did that.
Yeah. People have to go to another section of the DVD to see the fabulous glasses.
So now we have 2 hours of talking about our wardrobe. Is that?
I think, yeah, I think-
we talked about the wardrobe in the movie for 2 hours.
think
Now we have
it's-
2 hours.
yeah.
Of just... Well, Florian wore a beautiful pair of black
And then
pants that day.
why don't we talk about Florian's camera department at Rap? So, Florian, what was the favorite, the Merlot or the Pinot Noir?
No,
It
we
was
were
the Falcone. It was the
heavily into
Falcone.
Italian wines. Yeah, Falcone
Italian
was our
one.
favorite.
Okay.
Every night at Rap at Daly's was the Falcone. So we encourage everyone watching the DVD now, actually, to have a glass of Falcone. Celebrate the end of this commentary. If anyone actually watched the whole thing, they deserve a case of Falcone.
And on that note,
Thank
well,
you.
Thank
thanks
you.
for watching.